Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the TARDIS, where I have not been all day. Couldn't get out here, just had too many things going on, a lot of which was actually research. A lot of you guys have asked for me to go ahead and do the video on the history of the Star Trek kits, what years they came out and things like that. So I've been doing research on that most of the day. It's been a cold, wet, damp day down here, so the TARDIS wasn't really very comfortable. Just didn't feel it. I stayed in the house and worked on the computer all day, but I did get a lot of ground covered. I don't know how long it'll take me to get that video out, but it is underway. I also got a lot of great feedback from you guys. Many of you have excellent knowledge about all things Star Trek and models. So I got a couple of really great replies that I thought I would talk about to emails and to comments on the videos. One thing I did find out was that there was some debate about whether the Klingon battlecruiser made its first appearance on Elena Troyes or on the Enterprise incident. And what happened was the model was used first in the filming of the episode Elena Troyes, but the episodes were not aired in production order. So the first appearance of the Klingon battlecruiser for broadcast actually was the Enterprise incident. So that's that. It was filmed on one show first, but aired on the other one second. So some folks said, well, it was used first on Elena Troyes, which is correct, and others say it appeared first on the Enterprise incident, which is also correct. So cleared that little thing up. Also, I have a very nice reply from nobody else but me. And he's talking about the color, and it's a very detailed reply, but he says the ship, talking about the Klingon battlecruisers, the ship was mostly greenish gray, and just the top surface of the rear section and the flat top of the Cobra head were a dark, cool gray. As shown in the animated series, it was incorrectly colored, so the other website that said the animated series showed it correct was incorrect. The original filming model was incorrectly painted all gray before it ended up in the Smithsonian after it was molded and restored. It had been repainted with 3 colors of gray, green, and purplish gray when it was being considered to be used in a new series which later became Star Trek The Motion Picture after the success of Star Wars. When it was decided the model wasn't detailed enough, a much larger and far more detailed miniature was built, twice the size for the motion picture. And of course, Round 2 recently made a new kit of the motion picture version, which is half studio scale, which, by the way, is, I just found that earlier this evening when I was putting together the history of Star Trek models. And then the second Klingon model, the one that AMT used as a pattern, was given to Gene Roddenberry and remained in his office before eventually being auctioned off, presumably by his estate many years later. It retained the correct colors as seen in the original miniature when filmed for the show. So there's some great information on that. J.M. Chladek, and I hope I'm saying that right, writes, if you need any assistance with a Trek kit history video from the research side, let me know. I did a history of the original AMT Enterprise 20 years ago for the Cult TV Man website. I also did Star Wars kit history for the Star Wars Insider magazine in 2003. And he goes to talk about some other things. And one of the things he points out, and this is interesting, the trouble with Tribbles was season 2. So although the Klingon ship was mentioned, it wasn't shown until Star Trek got remastered. The original appearances by the D7 were the Enterprise incident, Elena Troyes, and Day of the Dove. Now, concerning the Trek licensing, Hallmark had more funding and likely an inroad to Paramount, but Monogram, the RM line, the Revell Monogram lines didn't merge under one banner till about 1996, as we'd mentioned. Still had to put in a bid for the Voyager license. Now, here's where things, because I noticed that Monogram, and again, I actually noticed this today when I was doing the history. I said, oh, wait a minute, all these Monogram models are from the Voyager series. So he brings this up. Paramount, let's see, he talks about the Revell Monogram lines in merged till 96, still had to put in a bid for the Voyager license. While I haven't confirmed exactly why AMT Ertl didn't get the license, Paramount was treating the Voyager license as a separate entity since the Voyager was the flagship program for Paramount's new UPN network. But, as I understand it, Monogram's license was limited as they could only do ships that appeared just in Voyager. If said ship appeared in DS9 or the Next Generation, it was off limits. The Maquis ship being an exception, albeit it appeared as it appeared in Voyager. AMT still had the license for the rest of Trek and did their best to maintain it. Monogram did 4 kits for Voyager and possibly a Voyager with paint and glue under the Revell Monogram label. Special edition was issued in '97. Revell of Germany also issued Voyager kits in Europe, and 3 Snap-type mini kits. All these kits, I kind of just a couple hours ago was looking at those going, what's that? And of course, this explains it. This kind of information coming my way really will help me flesh out the parts of that video, because there's some kits from some places that I'm like, I don't know anything about these companies, some of these resin companies and stuff. So anyway, back to his reply. Revell issued a European license for Trek, including the JJ Trek movies. Round 2 has a U.S. license for TV Trek in the States, while Mobius had the license for JJ Trek, or J.J. Abrams. Concerning Revell and Star Wars, it was Revell of Germany who got the first European exclusive lights for Star Wars circa 03 and 04 to coincide with Revenge of the Sith. At the time, AMT Ertl also had a Revenge of the Sith license for the U.S. market and did 3 kits. Around 2005, Ertl did not renew their Star Wars license, and Revell obtained it the next year. When that explains why, it's all of a sudden you're seeing less AMT and more Star Wars stuff from Revell. Revell, let's see, when that happened, Revell was able to rebox kits already tooled up by Revell for Germany over the previous couple of years. So that's a business, folks. That's how it runs. Logan Crackercraft, I hope I'm saying that right, writes in that Matt Jeffries was a great designer. He was an artist, an engineer, and a pilot. I've heard people complain that the Enterprise doesn't have enough detail, but Matt designed that ship under the idea that space is hostile, so you wouldn't want to go outside to do work. That's why there are Jeffries tubes. All areas of the ship are accessible via these tubes. The ship was split into 3 sections to keep the crew as far away from the engines as possible. Matt thought that any ship with engines that can go faster than light would be very powerful and hence very dangerous. Even the Klingon battlecruiser follows that aesthetic. In fact, if you look at Matt's early Enterprise designs, the Klingon battlecruiser is very similar to those early concepts. And that makes sense. And I'd heard this before. And that's one reason the engines were out on pylons and everything far away from where most of the crew was at. Now, just to thicken the plot a little bit, let's talk again about the Mr. Spock mold, because there's a story behind that. Now, a lot of this is me trying to fill in the blanks, and I have to thank Andy for providing me with a lot of this information, trying to help me get it straightened out. And this is our best analysis. I don't have any proof, though, about to say is correct, okay? 68 or so, the Spock pattern is made by Aurora. But we do know that Paramount and AMT both wanted a royalty. Aurora management was having none of that. So it goes in the R&D vault. 72-ish. Aurora UK executive is visiting West Hempstead. Andy shows him that pattern. He goes, perfect, let's put that in production. So that pattern goes to Portugal to have the molds cut. The molds go to England, where they do their production run. And now Aurora UK has its Mr. Spock's. And I am assuming that the Klingon battlecruiser and Starship Enterprise molds also go to England to have the same thing done. But when they're done, they go back to AMT, who owned them. But the Mr. Spock also goes to AMT, but remember, Aurora owns the Mr. Spock mold, even though Aurora has the rights. So they lease it. Aurora leases it to AMT, who does their production run, possibly sends it to Canada for a production run up there. And but when they're done, the Mr. Spock mold goes back to Aurora in West Hempstead. Eventually, when AMT wants to run it again, Aurora probably just sold the Spock mold to AMT. Now that makes sense. And where it is now, I don't know. But there's one little fly in the ointment. There is a kit model executive who went through, was involved in purchasing a lot of the assets of the old monogram Revell, and this individual claims that he saw the manifest and that the Mr. Spock mold was on the manifest as one of the molds that monogram acquired from Aurora. He says he saw it on there, and I'm certainly not going to second guess the man. Now, whether it actually made it there or not, I don't know. I have no idea where the mold is today. It's just one of those little mysteries. So there's just one more little, interesting story / mystery / what happened to the mold, stories for all of us kit model makers. And well, that about wraps up everything I have for this evening on the Star Trek models. But it's the more I delve into this, of course, the more twists and turns like a good mystery. And I had a phone call with my brother earlier, and he says, I'm going to open up a counter YouTube channel to your YouTube channel to Max's Models After Hours. I'm going to talk about, he's going to start one, Max's Models, The Naked Truth. And I said, Stephen, the minute you say Max's Models and naked in the same sentence, people are going to click off. God, I hope so. Anyway, well, that's it, guys. I want to thank everyone tuning in. Hopefully, if you're not confused at this point, you're not paying attention. But it's great. And good night to the Mr. Spock mold, wherever you are. Guys, you have a great evening, and model on. Modeling. This is the way. Model on.